What does it mean to be told that you need to dress your age? At its core, being told to dress your age is an ageist statement. Has anyone ever said something like this to you along those lines? Or maybe you restrict yourself by saying that you're too old or too young to wear a certain style of clothing or shoes. Maybe too old or too young to have a certain hairstyle or how to wear your makeup. Well, in today's episode, I'm joined by Cyndy Porter, who is a certified image consultant, a personal stylist, fashion expert, and award-winning photographer based in Northern Virginia. I worked with her personally in 2015, and today she and I are going to have a conversation about owning your style at any age. Welcome. This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm your host, Melissa Batchelor, and I'm a nurse practitioner with over 25 years of experience in geriatrics and long-term care. I'm interested in making the world a much more age-friendly place by talking about issues related to ageism and creating age-friendly initiatives, as well as supporting and improving the lives of family caregivers and those living with Alzheimer's disease. I have a few opportunities for us to connect for more of a two-way conversation that I wanted to share with you. First, I have a new private Facebook community on Facebook titled after the podcast. So just search for This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. And you can also become a member of my YouTube channel to get early access to episodes before they're published for the public. And this membership helps support production of the podcast each week. And coming in March of 2024, I will launch a new membership library that's going to be called Age-Wise You, where you can access the over 165 episodes that I have, but in a curated library. So it's all organized by topics. So much more to come on that as we get closer to launching. Welcome back to This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm Dr. Melissa Batchelor, and I am a nurse practitioner, and I wear a lot of different hats in my work, including hosting this weekly podcast to bring you news and information on aging, caring for someone living with Alzheimer's disease, and a wide range of topics that I hope will help move us towards becoming an age-friendly world. Because when things are age-friendly, they're friendly for everyone. So if you like the podcast, the best way to help me grow and support the podcast is to like it, share it, and leave a review in whatever platform you've tuned in on today. Because no matter how old you are today, we are all aging, and these issues are going to become increasingly important. If you're a millennial, there are things that need to be in place when you reach the age of 65. So we have about 20 to 25 years to get these things in place to help you age with the support and choices that will help you, just like the people that are 65 today. Your likes, shares, and reviews help get the information out to help more people dealing with these issues. But right now, let's get going on this week's episode. Okay, so now let's dive into today's episode where we're talking with Cyndy Porter about how to dress your age. So welcome, Cyndy. I'm so excited that you're here. And you and I met around 2015 when I actually hired you to work with me one-on-one as an image consultant, and loved your work so much that I had a group of 6 ladies come up to Northern Virginia, and we all worked with you. And, as I was telling you before we started recording today, there's still so much that I think about when I'm getting dressed each day, or getting ready to go on video. And it's all stuff, that I learned through you, whether it's choosing my clothes, my makeup, or even like how to get my hair cut. Of course, you can see I've let it grow back out.
It looks great.
Well, thank you. So, but before we get too far into our conversation, why don't you go ahead and introduce us and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got interested in being an image consultant.
Well, thank you. And it's so exciting to be here with you. I haven't seen you in years, and you look fabulous, and your podcast is so interesting. So thank you for having me. So as you know, I have a passion for helping particularly women, but I work with men now too, to develop self-confidence. And, as you know, it's a pretty deep topic. Like, how do you have self-confidence? It's something that I struggled with a lot in my life. And I feel like everything changed for me when I simply started to feel differently about how I looked. So I feel like it's the easiest thing you can do to boost your self-confidence is to look in the mirror and feel like you're presenting the best version of yourself. And so, sometimes I think, oh, that's superficial, right? Like, you're doing important work. So many people that I work with are like out, making transformational changes in people's lives. And does how we look really matter? And what I found is it does. It matters to how we see ourselves. If we catch that reflection of ourselves in the mirror and we don't feel great about ourselves, as women, we might not lean in as much. We might not raise our hand. We might not give our opinion as much as we would if we felt our most confident. And unfortunately, people judge us really, really quickly, and they judge us on how we look. So I've just gotten really passionate about helping people, number one, figure out like who they are and how they want to represent themselves to the world, and then what it looks like physically to do that. In addition to just what are your colors and shapes and proportions and all the things that personal stylists do when they help people dress, I think it's even more important to get really clear on who you are and what you want that image to be, and then to understand that how you dress impacts that.
Yeah. I think the way the way I remember you saying that is, how do you want to show up in the world? And I know that I actually heard you speak at a women's leadership conference, and you were on stage and you were like, okay, you were talking about the art and the science of, having your own professional brand, your own style, and about how color attracts color. And you're like, so if you're wearing a lot of black tops, where do you think it shows up? You're like, it's black, dark circles under your eyes. And I was like, oh my God, like I definitely have to work with this lady. And you're right in the fact that it is about self-confidence, but it's amazing how knowing just some of the basics of proportion, what clothes are going to look, how do you balance that? Like you don't even have to lose weight. It was as simple as switching from wearing so much black to wearing navy and adding color, which I love your teal top. I told you about that. I'm back home in Wilmington and UNCW. That's like one of our colors. I've been looking for a teal top for like 3 weeks now. I've not been able to find one. So I will figure out where you got that.
I will help you with that.
Yeah. And part of it too, when people say that you need to dress your age, inherently that's an ageist statement, whether they're saying you're dressing too old for your age, you're dressing too young for your age. And you and I both share a very different philosophy about that. And so even though like I initially wanted to work with you about the dark circles, it really wasn't. But I would also walk past the mirror and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I just don't look good. And I'm like, and we actually had an email exchange where you're talking about some of the current trends. And I think one of the other things I learned from you is that you don't have to dress to the trends. You need to dress to what looks good on you. And I was like, that was like liberating. Like, it's like, yeah, if skinny jeans don't look good on me, like if it's the difference between skinny jeans and straight leg, that's an easy fix. And so now when I walk by the mirror, I don't have those thoughts. So, and all that does tie back into confidence and what we see in our reflection and how that plays out. So, but do you have people that come to you and say, or what are your thoughts about people saying dress your age, or do they kind of veil it a little more thinly, especially for maybe women going out to try to find a new job or, getting back in the dating scene?
Yeah, it comes up all the time in so many different ways. And I have, as you know, my philosophy is it's not about dressing your age; it's about dressing who you are as a person. And if you are trendy and hip, and you see yourself best in boyfriend jeans with holes in them, then you should do that. I think that there's extremes where the girls today are really wearing very provocative clothing, and I think as a woman of a certain age, we might want to be a little bit more elegant than that. But for the most part, I think you should dress for the body you have, dress for the image you want to make in the world. Really, I recently talked to a client that I worked with for a long time. She's a nutritionist. And when we first started working together, she paid no attention to how she looked. And now she's like, I care about it a lot. And the thing I want is to look sexy. And I'm like, really? Like, what does that mean to you? And she said, I don't know. It's hard to articulate, but I work really hard on my shape, and I want clothes that are, more form fitting. And that when I, look in the mirror, I feel sexy. And so you could take a word like sexy and say like what it might mean to me versus what it might mean to her, two totally different things. But she has a word that she holds on to, and she cares how she looks, and she looks in the mirror. And if she feels like she looks sexy that day, she feels like she's nailed it. So um, it's so personal for each person. And I rarely run into people who decide on an image they want for themselves that gets in the way of how other people see them. Every now and then you see somebody who, wants to, I've talked about this. Like I've had occasions where I had like a financial advisor who did dress overtly sexy and stilettos and low cut tops and, short skirts. And it was getting in the way of her success because if she wanted to have a new couple as clients and the man's kind of checking her out and the woman's feeling a little threatened because for whatever reason, that's going to get in the way of her professional success, right? I had a organizer once who looked kind of sloppy, right? So I'm not going to want to hire somebody who my first impression is you look kind of disheveled and not put together. So there are occasions where how we think we're presenting ourselves is getting in our way. But I think most of the time, if you can really figure out some words that mean something to you, whether it's youthful, as an aging woman, I do want to look youthful. I don't want to look like I am not in touch with reality. I often tell my clients to think of words like relevant um, and modern and youthful, if instead of, looking like 20 years younger. I
Yeah.
don't know if that
I was
if
going to
that
say,
helps. That was a lot of words I just gave you.
yeah. Well, which reminds us, we're going to link to your adjectives worksheet so people can start to figure out their words. But you can say youthful and not mean I want to look like I'm 19 again. Youthful, youthful really is a state of mind. It's like the essence of who you are. I've met a lot of really youthful 90-year-olds, that were awesome. And I've met some really not so youthful 40-year-olds. And, this, and talking about like how young girls are dressing now, I can remember like when I was 19 and 20, my dad was saying, I had on like a short top with like cargo pants and my little Doc Martin boots, he's like, one day you're going to want to dress more conservatively. And I was like, I don't think so, Dad. And, fast forward 20 years. And because of what I do for work, I was like, so strange how that came to be. But I can also remember in high school, like caring a lot, like everybody cared about what they looked like. Everybody showed up to school like it was the preppy look and you were keeping up with that trend. I dropped my child off at the high school here. Every single student has on baggy sweatpants and a hoodie. I did not see a single person. So part of it in that age group is about fitting in, and so I think sometimes over the course of our lifespan too, we're trying on different personalities. We're trying to figure out who we are. And it's okay for those looks to change too,
Right.
depending on what you're doing and where you're going. So,
But you're also right that if you learn what clothes look best on you, which is what you and I did for you, and you know that they're not skinny jeans because of your shape, there's always classic styles that are available. There's always going to be a boot cut or a slightly flared pant that you can find that's more flattering for your body. So, I mean, the fashion trends are crazy and they change so rapidly. And it's difficult to invest in clothes if you're following the trends because a few years later, what you just bought that was trendy is now not trendy anymore, and you've got to replenish that. And something else that I care about that may or may not be relevant to your audience is like how all of this is affecting our planet, right? Like if we can find clothes that we feel great in, that look good on us, that will last for many years to come, it's a better investment for us personally. And it's also better for the planet, both from the manufacturing side and also the clothes that end up in the landfills. So, I think that's probably another topic for another day, but if
but
those are people's values, it's important to think about your values in all of this, right? Like,
right. Yeah. And the other, so what you were just touching on are like some of the basics of what you teach about these principles of art and design. Because one of the things was I can wear skinny jeans if I put UGG boots on, because it's about putting something heavier, like a bigger base that then comes in, so to make yourself
Right.
class whatever you're looking for. So let's talk a little bit about these principles of art and design that you teach people. And if you know them, I'm sure you know them off the top of your head. If not, I have them listed in front of me and I can beat them to you.
Yeah, there's basically so there's elements of design and there's elements of art, and I talk about both of those in different occasions. Um, we could list them, but I will tell you that there's three main ones. And for the amount of time we have, I think that if people understand, if they follow these three main ones, that that's 90% of the ball game. And those are shape, proportion, and color. So if you understand your face shape, for example, we all have a face shape. And if you think about the art concept of repeating patterns, and you think if you have, like, I have a square shaped face, I'm better with wider necklines that will help narrow that. I'm better with repeating the pattern of my face shape. Or if I think about my favorite features, like in my case, my eyes, if I repeat the shape of my eye, which is just a circle, in my accessories or in my patterns, that's going to bring attention to my eyes as compared to other things. I
Right.
also want to think about the shape of my body, and that changes as we age. I mean, that for sure is something that people need to, be aware of with aging. Like, a lot of people come to me and say, gee, I don't have the body I used to have. Why am I now carrying weight in my stomach after menopause that I never had before? Well, that's part of life. And so having kind of an understanding of, oh, I might have always dressed for a shape that looked more like a triangle or an hourglass. And now I have more of an oval because I'm carrying weight in my tummy, which I've never done before because menopause kind of does that to us women. There are ways to dress that can conceal that. And so instead of wearing lots of belts around my middle like I did in my youth to show my hourglass shape, now I wear, shapes that conceal my tummy. And when I look in the mirror and I happen to catch a sideways glimpse, it's not quite as appalling as when I'm like showcasing the fact that I have gained weight
Yeah.
in my
Well, but the other
tummy.
thing that I did learn from you too is like dressing to what fits, even if you're a little heavier, actually makes you look skinnier than wearing like a really big dress. And I was like, really is true. It's like sometimes you start trying on clothes, you're like, that's spot on. Like, so you're better off to wear something that fits than to try to hide it in like a moo dress, because then that will make you.
Exactly. It's so fascinating. So there's basically like five body shapes. And a very common one for aging women in particular are the oval or inverted triangle, where you're carrying more weight on the top than you are on the bottom. And what I've found is a lot of women that have this shape will wear the skinny jeans or like black leggings because they feel like, oh, my legs look so good compared to the rest of my body. And then they wear these muumuus or, these larger size tops because they feel like they're concealing the top. And they inevitably would put these bright colors on top. So they'd have these bright colors on top and then these dark pants on the bottom, which just made what was big look bigger and what was small look smaller. I call it the lollipop or popsicle effect, right? And so what they need to do is actually flip flop that. And it's counterintuitive, but if you add a little bit of weight on the bottom, a little bit of more balance, put your bright colors on the bottom and a darker color that's maybe more form fitting on top, now everything is more proportionate and you look 10 to 15 pounds thinner just by doing that particular thing. This is super common with aging women.
Yeah, that hit on the emphasis thing. What do you put and scale, actually? Um, and yeah, so I think one of the other things that you did was kind of like developing the wheel of like your wow colors. So now I do say people are like, oh, you look so good, and it's always have on a wow color. And I'm like,
Well, look at you now. You look fabulous, right? And all your hair and your makeup and your sweater all just blends together in a way that really makes, your eyes pop. And very proud of you. You look fabulous.
well, thank you. Well, it's because of you. Because like I said, I've constantly walked past the mirror and I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but we got to do something. And you're right. It's just simple things like that. So we talked about a couple of simple things that people could do once they know their personality style and once they know their body shape. Do you want to say anything else about that? And then we're going to tell people how to get in touch with you. Who might?
Yeah, just one thing kind of comes to mind that I get asked all the time from aging women in particular, but also I guess it relates to men too. And that is, should they let their hair go gray? It's very, very common. And unfortunately, I think a lot of men look better in the salt and pepper kind of gray hair. Women, when you go void of color, like I am never one to tell women don't go gray. Like if that's something you want to do because of, the putting the products on your hair and you're worried about, whether that's bad for you to have the chemicals. My opinion about going gray is it will age you. So if you want to do that, I think that the best way to do it is to make sure you have a really edgy hairstyle. So graying is okay. It's natural. If it's something you want to do for your time and your expense and for the health of your body, you don't want to put those chemicals on, it's okay. For me, I don't think I'm ever going to go gray. I really think that it will change my whole look and make me feel older, than I am. I think putting color on my hair is probably the last thing I'm going to, move away from as I age. But think about maybe an edgy hairstyle if you are going to go gray. So I don't know. It just comes up so often. I thought I would share that.
Yeah. So my thoughts about that are, if it fits you, you may need to think about a way to make sure the gray looks good with your skin tone. Like if it's not a match, like my best friend in the world has had gray hair since the day I met her. And I think she was like in her mid 40s when we met. She looks great with gray hair, and she's had like edgier hairstyles and, but it looks really good on her. She also has some dark, like some of her natural dark in there, even though it's mostly gray. Versus like, some of my other friends are like, I'm never going to go gray either. And I'm like, well, I'm lucky. I will keep my fingers crossed that I have red hair and it's the last color to go gray. So my aunt and my cousin's my age, and she's like, you don't color your hair? And I'm like, not yet. But, if it came to
you're lucky.
time, I might try to, but I also have a hard shade to match. So I think it might be harder to cover it up. But so I think it all goes back to self-confidence. Like if you feel better with your hair being gray, but again, like does the youthfulness of your personality come out, or did you let your hair grow gray and you're still having kind of self-perceived ageist thoughts, but well, I'm old, I'm getting old, now my hair is gray, because that type of the negative self-thoughts we have about aging actually decrease your lifespan by 7.5 years. So how we think about aging actually matters. And so that's why I think that the work you're doing, I probably never got a chance to tell you this because it is more recent research that's come out, but that self-talk, the self-confidence that I can be youthful at 85, I can be youthful at 95, I can rock this outfit that I have on that fits me and my personality, no matter what age I am. I think that's really the most important message, which goes back to your first statement about it being about self-confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have clients that have gone gray. I think you're absolutely right that it has to do with whether the gray is a good match for your skin tone and whether the hairstyle is kind of compensating for the gray. Anyway,
so if you were to have gray and thinking about a color wheel, because that was another thing. I was like, I never heard of color wheel. But it's like I think blue and orange are opposite each other.
Right.
but so like if you were to go gray, would you then look at your eye color and maybe like your skin tone and your lips to try to figure out what colors are going to look best?
Yeah, see, the issue with gray is that it's a non-color. And so like black, white, and gray are actually void of color. So they're not on the color wheel. And therefore they're considered cool colors. So remember we talked about warm colors being like with yellow undertones, and cool colors have more blue or pink undertones.
Mhm.
So people with cool coloring do look better at gray than those of us that have warmer coloring, because we're fighting our natural color. So if you have blue eyes, green eyes, brown eyes, gray is not going to be a complement to any of those, but it could be a nice complement and blend in with your skin. And then you maybe just do need to wear more color in your wardrobe to compensate for that. If you wear gray and you wear black and you wear white and your hair is gray, you just might end up looking more dull than you want to. So it's the whole picture, and it does go back to who you are and staying youthful and being positive and keeping those mental thoughts in the right place, and then showing up in the world in a way that represents that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, tell us a little bit about how people can get in touch with you, and maybe just a quick rundown of some of the services that you offer, and we'll be
Sure. I would recommend that if you're interested in what I'm talking about, that you check out my TEDx talk that I'm sure Melissa has a link to. I am currently in the process of writing a book that's for both men and women, and that will be coming out in 2024, hopefully with a big splash. And together with that, I'm going to be offering an online course because I wanted to reach more people globally. And so it will be a relatively inexpensive course that anybody can take and learn all of the principles that Melissa learned one-on-one. If you're local to the DMV area, then I do take private clients, but I'm really looking forward to this course and working with more people, so that more people learn the skills and feel great about themselves.
Yeah. Well, you have my vote of confidence, and I highly recommend you. So thank you so much for being with me today and talking about how we can dress our age, but remain ageless.
Absolutely. Love that.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. You can check out other episodes on this platform or visit my website at melissabphd.com. Thanks to listeners like you, in the first 18 months of This Is Getting Old, we have reached a ranking of top 10% globally, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support in making that happen. I'm also really excited to let you know that you can now work with me directly, either one-on-one or you can join one of the groups that I coach. Particularly if you're an adult child dealing with an aging parent or a caregiver trying to manage the complexities of someone living with Alzheimer's disease. In the show notes, you can also find information about how to reach out and contact me directly, and I hope to work with each of you very soon as we discover and share more ways to make the world more age-friendly for everyone. My website also has information about how to contact me for speaking engagements, or if you have someone you'd like to recommend as a show guest for This Is Getting Old. If you have a product or service in the aging space that you would like to advertise and or sponsor an episode, there's more information about that on my website. And you can also find books and courses that I developed and learn more about the products and services that I recommend. So don't forget, if you like the podcast, the best way to help me grow and support it is to like it, share it, and leave a review in whatever platform that you've tuned in on today. Your likes, shares, and reviews help increase my rating and my rankings, and also help other people find the podcast. I look forward to reading your reviews and hearing from you.